All right. Oh, we are here at Crossing the Streams. This is so exciting. So exciting.
With
We got
bells on.
a special guest, Sue Kolinski. We are so
Yay.
yay. We're gonna kick things off real quick with the theme song, and then we'll get into things. Sue is gonna do the honors.
Here's the story of some lonely fellas who spent way too much time watching the TV. All of them have jobs and friends. Well, not really. Just between you and me.
Nailed it. Ron.
They made a live show out of their hobby. Every TV watcher's TV watching dream. Jeff runs Sal and Bob, and there's Howard. They call it Crossing Streams.
Sal.
And then one day they went live on all the platforms. You could hear the people laugh and shout and scream. Still can't find another word that rhymes with platform. But man, we crossed the stream.
It's Sal's first time on the show. We crossed the streams. Everybody together.
We crossed the
Cross
streams.
That's
That's the way we do it here. We cross the streams.
Do. All right, it always falls apart on the last one.
Yay.
Okay, awesome. Welcome to Crossing the Streams, where we answer the ultimate question: what should I be binge watching next? If you've just finished something and you're looking for something else, you have come to the right place. Believe it or not, this is episode 96 of Crossing the Streams. We have 95 hours streaming for your pleasure on YouTube right now. 96 hours.
Hurtling towards 100.
I know. We're so close to 100.
Rapidly.
Everyone, since most people will probably be listening right now, we're not doing a show next week. Everyone can enjoy their Thanksgiving. We'll have a rerun. But we do have a special guest. We have a special guest. Sue may be one of our most famous guests.
Wow.
3-time Emmy nominated. Been on The Tonight Show with Jay
Beautiful.
Leno. Star Search semifinalist. Wrote for Ellen. Brotherly Love. That's Joey Lawrence. Dope. And Sex in the City. Producer on the Osbournes. Sue Kolinski, welcome to the show.
Why,
Thank you.
thank you. So I figured 21 years after the Osbournes has aired, if you have never seen it, you really need to give me a note from your parents why. So I actually watched it recently, and you know, it was the first reality show of its kind. And in retrospect, seeing a lot of what has come after, it really, really holds up. And what I find to be so cool about the show is that there is no strings as far as, you know, what whether we like had Ozzy or anyone in the family. You don't really see the producer's hand, basically, because I've worked on so many shows since then that are supposed reality, and I've burst a lot of people's bubbles on a lot of other shows that I've worked on. And that was so pure. And I think probably because it was so early on, there was nothing else to compare it to. They were the perfect family to do it with because they had no inhibitions at all. I think a lot of people don't realize that cameras, you know, you could do a show, you could be an actor and be on a show, but the fact that they're shooting something in your actual house about your life is the most invasive situation you could ever be in. And the fact that people actually allow people to do that, it takes a very, very special kind of person and a family. So my experience working on the show was that because it was new and because at the time there were no production company middlemen, it was just producers that most of us were independent contractors, and then MTV, they allowed us to do anything we wanted. Again, crazy. Because we were the first. So things that we shot, situations that the family just innately were in. You were and they let us shoot a ton of footage. Money was no object. We never knew from moment to moment what was going to happen, which is a big departure from shows now because they don't spend as much money, and you have to produce. You get like 2.5, 3 days to make an episode. And with the Osbournes, they just let us shoot and shoot and shoot. And then we were basically a slave to the footage. So it was really a testament to our creativity. You had to make something sometimes out of purely nothing. And it was exhilarating. Just the fact that you had to make something creative, even if you didn't have, maybe you had a seed of a story. So you had to do things in different ways. And sometimes you didn't have the footage to support the story you had to tell. And I'll just share with you, there was one situation where Ozzy and Sharon were going to London, and they were flying out of LAX, and LAX did not give us permission to shoot there. So we had to somehow show them taking off in a plane. So they were driving in like an SUV. It was kind of like a town car SUV, and the interior kind of looked like a private plane. So we found inserts online. The driver, who was actually their tour manager, we found like a pilot's hand, like reaching up to press instruments on a panel, like a regular pilot, and we inserted that. And then when we were to make it look like the plane was taking off, we tilted the shot to make it look like the car was a plane.
That's awesome.
So it was all this kind of really, really fun stuff. And when I first started, I was a segment producer. And when I talk about not really having a heavy hand as a producer, because you were never going to tell them what to do or what to say. You just had to put the cameras on them and just trust that they were going to be as crazy and fun and game for anything. So one night we were shooting, Jack was being reunited with his dog Lola. And we were like, well, what do we do with this? So they had lights in the pool. And my girlfriend and I, who was another segment producer, we said to the director, you know what? We should shoot this romantically, because he was in love with this dog and he had been separated from the dog for, I don't know, maybe a month or so, or maybe even longer. So we shot it where, and the dog liked to swim in the pool. So Jack was on one end and Lola was on the other end, and we kept on. We knew in editing we were just going to go back and forth to like them getting closer. So it was a close up. It was like the dog's POV, and then it was Jack's POV until they united in the middle of the pool, and then the dog was kissing him and he was kissing the dog, and we made it into this like love story. So stuff like that, and I think the reason why the show was as successful as it was, and other shows kind of, I think, kind of fell at the wayside, was that they really did love one another, and they did regular mom and dad things. Like Sharon, she had a vacuum, we had her vacuuming. Ozzy was sitting on the couch. He lifted his legs as the vacuum cleaner went underneath them. He made milkshakes. That ended up being a very thematic kind of fun thing to go back to. And you would think, oh, someone's making a milkshake. What's the big deal? Like, where's the entertainment in this? But it's Ozzy Osbourne making a milkshake.
Right.
And we would get maybe 3 minutes out of that.
Sure.
And, and there were times where it was challenging because I don't know how much people know about this, but his older daughter, Amy, was supposed to be in the show. And up until we had shot a few episodes, and one episode in particular, she had a main storyline, but her contract wasn't signed. And Sharon kept on saying, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. She'll sign. Just keep shooting with her, which, we really probably shouldn't have done, but we did because we figured, okay, she's telling us she's going to sign. And then at the last moment, this episode was going to air in like a couple of days. And she said that she didn't want to be in the show. And we were like, oh my God, she's like the star of this episode. So we had to, all hands on deck, we had to go and just look for footage to come up with 3 minutes. And 3 minutes doesn't really sound like a lot, but in TV land, that's a lot of time to fill. And we just found other things that fit with the episode. And it was, for me, I've been chasing, that's 21 years ago. So I have been chasing the high of that show my entire career since then.
How many episodes, Sue, total?
I think there were 10 every season. So there were 3 episodes, and then there was bonus episode where, I don't know if you remember this, but they did a fake episode where because there were a lot of rumors that it was scripted, and we just went along with it. And we made this fake episode to make it look like we pulled the curtain. And like when we were finished shooting with the dogs, some handler came and took the dogs out of the house, and just made it look like it was all fake.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I tell you something that was really, really cool is that for people who have never been on a set, when the first year I think it was maybe the first and second year, we shot. As producers, we were sequestered in a room in the house, which was our kind of like video village was in the house. All the directors were in a room with monitors and everything, and the producers were just hanging out in this spare room. And a lot of times we had no idea if where the kids were. Are they coming home? So we split the segment producers into 3 groups. So you were a morning person. You got there at like 8 o'clock in the morning and you stayed till maybe noon. And then the afternoon producer came, and then the night producer would be there at maybe like 5 o'clock, and sometimes maybe leave at 10, but sometimes stay there till 3 o'clock in the morning. So we were hanging out with Ozzy and Sharon a lot during downtime. And they would come in and hang out with us, and she would give us movies. She had gotten first run movies, so we would sit there and watch movies. We spent New Year's and Christmas with them. We toasted in the New Year with them. We had dinner with them. So it was
that's cool.
We really were part of the family. It was very, very cool.
Very cool.
That's
So
awesome.
it almost sounds like the show was to put it together was almost like a cross between like a hybrid of just a pure documentary and then the scripted reality shows that are popular today. Something in between those. You had scenarios that you edited down to, but the footage itself was raw and real. It wasn't anything planned. And that was, to me, one of the things, and as a rule, I'm not a fan of reality shows, especially the scripted reality shows. I love what I would consider some of the more documentary style, like the Hard Knocks on HBO, which is, it's a little bit more documentary than reality. But what I always loved about Ozzy was I grew up I was in middle school in the early 80s, and I was a huge Diary of a Madman, Blizzard of Oz, Ozzy Osbourne fan. So, and that was the Ozzy I knew. And so to see him as just this guy hanging around the house, almost like my dad, was like so, and to not be the powerhouse dynamo in the family was so unique. And then the other thing I loved about it is that almost after the show, Ozzy, who was such an enormous star in his own right, arguably became the least popular actively of the 4 of them. Jack got his own show. They all
Kelly
ended up doing things. Kelly had her show, and they all did stuff. Even beyond him, he was just doing the occasional reunion tour, and that was it. But it was Sharon was doing daytime talk shows. I mean, they all became so big beyond him, which was really cool and unique.
Well, also, it's like I look at Jack now, and he has a production company, and he's producing shows, and And I get the thing that makes me laugh too. I saw Jack recently, and he has like tattoos. Like he's so tatted up. And when we were shooting the show, I mean, he was really young. I mean, he was in maybe junior high school, going into high school. And I remember the subject came up about him getting a tattoo, and then Kelly getting a tattoo. And Ozzy was like, no way, because he knew, because he's all tatted up. He said, what happens is you get one and then you get another, and you're not going to stop at one. And one of them actually did get a tattoo. And then I look at Jack today, and he's so tatted up, and it just makes me laugh so much because it was something, they were really being, your conventional parents with, no, I don't want you getting a tattoo, and it's coming from like your dad who like bit the head off of a bat, telling me that I can't get a tattoo.
Can you watch the Osbournes anywhere now? I was trying to look, and I know you can rent it, but is it streaming for free anywhere?
Yeah, that's the problem with this,
I don't think it is.
I don't know if it is.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sure it's like on YouTube probably, but that's not legal. So go buy it, everyone, on Amazon.
On iTunes, yeah.
Right.
Amazon,
But so it's not even somewhere where you can actually pay for it. Like it's not.
No, you can do it. I think it's on like
Amazon.
It's on Prime. You can
pay
rent
for it
it.
on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
you can pay for
okay.
it on YouTube also. Yeah,
Okay.
with the YouTube.
Yeah, it's available for purchase to stream, but not on any of the, not for free to stream. But all right, well, worth finding out, well worth digging up. Sue, thank you for that. That was awesome. Always nice to hear a little behind the scenes. All right, let's talk about something else. Hang on a second. So just to give a full sneak of the show today, everybody. We got, what do we got? Why isn't I think? Oh, there we go. We talked about the Osbournes. We're going to talk about Emily the Criminal. Sal's going to talk about Falling for Christmas. Sue, you're going to be wishing.
Of course.
Only 3 minutes. And then Barry Bremen, the Great Imposter. We talked about the Osbournes. And then Sue is going to come back a little later and talk about My Old School. So that's pretty awesome. All right, so let's kick things off with Emily the Criminal. I'm excited to hear about this since Aubrey is one of my favorite actresses.
Holy cow, you guys. So first off, this was not served up to me by Amazon or Netflix or Hulu or any other streaming services. This was served up to me by our friendly friends up in the sky in Delta Airlines in their new release section, which, by the way, I'll just say I find really interesting because to that very point, you can't see Emily the Criminal anywhere right now without paying for it, right? So you can, it was released in August. It had a budget of 1.7 million. It yielded 2.2 million. So this was a barely profitable endeavor. But it was picked up by Netflix. So this is going to be on the big board in December. So I'm really actually excited about this. But this movie is so good that when I just flew to California for my trip last week, I watched it on the way there and I watched it on the way back because there were things about it that I've been thinking about it nonstop. So let me start with this. Jeff, you mentioned you're an Aubrey Plaza fan. I'm just curious, why are you an Aubrey Plaza fan?
From Parks, but mostly because I love her clips from the late night shows that she goes on.
Yes. Okay, so let me just say this.
And White Lotus.
Yes.
So I loved her also in Parks and Rec, right? And I think she's one of the most fascinating people I know. She's also, I have to tell you, one of the most like deranged people, like legit crazy. You don't know what she's capable of saying or doing on any live show. I don't know why she would ever appear on anything live without some type of 7-second delay, because you just don't know what she's capable of doing or saying on these shows. And so when I saw on Delta Airlines, when I saw the the preview for this stupid named show, Emily the Criminal. It's a movie, and I'm like, that's a really stupid name for a movie, Emily the Criminal. I assumed it was a comedy, but there's nothing comedic about this movie. This is a very dramatic social commentary movie about a young lady who is absolutely laden with student debt and cannot get ahead of her debt load. And it asks the question of society and of the acting performance of Aubrey Plaza of what is the common person, if pushed to certain limits, what are they capable of? Normally good person who's lived their life by the rules and done everything the correct way. Could somebody like that be pushed into being and if you can be pushed over that line, how far over that line are you willing to cross once you cross into that world? And that's what this movie seeks to explore and answer. And I have to tell you, I was blown away by Aubrey Plaza's talent. I did not give her full credit for her true acting chops. In retrospect, now I've had a chance in preparation for today. She did go to NYU and she was part of the Tisch drama program, and she went through the rigors of becoming a prolific actor. So it shouldn't surprise me that someone with those kinds of chops should be able to put together a dramatic role. I just didn't know she had it in her, and she is amazing in this role. So I have to say that one of the other things about Aubrey Plaza I didn't realize is how athletic she is. She is an incredible. She did all her own stunts, and she did an amazing job being physical and dramatic at the same time. Theo Rossi is in this movie, and for anyone who else is in a Sons of Anarchy fan, you might know Theo Rossi. He is exceptional in this movie, and he was part of the production team as well. So Aubrey and Theo kind of built this thing. You'll be surprised to know that Gina Gershon makes a comeback performance in this movie. She has one scene in the whole movie, but it's a kick-ass scene with Gina Gershon. So I'm really pleased to see that they with the budget they had, that they were able to get a couple of bigger names into this.
She hasn't been the same since Elizabeth Berkley knocked her down the stairs.
I love that. I love
and Ron's not the Marvel guy in the group because he went Theo Rossi and didn't go from Luke Cage.
No, that's true. That's true. And if you pull up Theo Rossi, I mean, the guy's got a ton of credits, right? But yes, he was what is it? Hernan Shades Alvarez? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
But he's been in a bunch of other things, and he is super talented. The funny thing about Theo Rossi is when you look at him, you have no idea what nationality he is. It's like in this movie, he happens to play somebody of Arabic descent, but you don't know. He could be anything. And that brings up another topic, which is Theo Rossi speaks flawless Arabic in this movie. And guess what? Aubrey Plaza, flawless Spanish in this movie.
Wow.
Who knew that she was bilingual? But I do now because her father's Puerto Rican, but I had no idea that was the case. But she is multilingual, and I thought that was cool how they used it in the movie. So listen, I will just say this: I don't want to ruin the voyage that they take you on with this. Suffice to say, this is an exploration of characters and the possibility for change, and what that means, not just to the people in the movie, but also what it means for society. What's the reflection that it has on all of us, and how capable are each of us when pushed to do bad things. And I really am excited for where this movie's going to go once it does stream. I am betting that this will be one of those slow burn type of movies that kind of pick up a following once it's streamable on Netflix. And I am really, really glad I watched it. I've been thinking about it a lot, and I think you guys will enjoy it too. So I hope you guys check it out once it's available to us on our friendly friends on Netflix. So there it is.
Well, you definitely had me at Aubrey Plaza because I love her. There's something so real and raw about her performances. And
Yeah.
because I've been watching her, Jeff, you mentioned White Lotus, which
Mhm.
I'm deviating here, but I think it's so much better than last season. There's something that's really, really dark, and I'm only 2 episodes in, but oh my god, she is so good in that.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is about White Lotus is I don't think my wife knew who Aubrey Plaza was. By the way, she's Puerto Rican. She mentions being from Puerto Rico in
Mhm.
White Lotus. Is but the I'm sitting there trying to explain to her, no, Aubrey is hilarious. She's one of the quirkiest, funniest people because it's so not the White Lotus character. She's like this boring reserve. Yeah. But yeah, she's good. She's good. It's
She just I just saw her the other day. Funny People with Adam Sandler, Rogan, Jonah Hill was on, and she plays the young woman that lives across the hall that Rogan wants to date, and she's great in that too. So sarcastic.
If you for folks
So-
for folks who are watching who don't actually know who Aubrey Plaza is, if you do Google her or go on YouTube, you're gonna get her more famous clips of her on late night television, just as Jeff mentioned a minute ago, and those are some of the most uncomfortable and hilarious segments, like to the point that people like like Kimmel and Fallon have no idea what to do with her. Like it's
Right.
it's so weird and uncomfortable that they just don't know how to handle it, and that makes it even funnier. And I think they knew that
Yeah.
going in. But holy cow, when given the right script and the right opportunity to really demonstrate her talent, I was really very impressed by her, and I'm going to be looking for her to do more stuff like that in the future.
I know we've talked about.
Just
go
one
ahead,
other
Sue.
thing. You were saying that, how did they get this group of talent to be in this film? And a great script.
Yeah.
A great script. Actors, well-known actors, will always do something if the script is great.
That's actually exactly why she signed on for it, and exactly why Rossi signed on for it as well. They said they both read the script together, and they were like, "We have to do this. This is a requirement." So
right. And that's coming to Netflix when? In December?
in December.
But you
Okay.
could see it. You could see it now and pay for it.
You can pay for it on the regular streaming services. I noticed on Apple Plus that's available. I think it's for $3.99 for rent.
Oh, okay.
But it'll be available for free on Netflix coming up.
We just you can hold off 2 weeks, so you could do
I don't know
it.
if I can. I may have to spring for it tonight.
Maybe.
Yeah, sounds great.
I'm like a junkie now. I got to see it.
Sue's got the
She's
benefit
checking
of,
the return bin at Blockbuster, waiting for.
Sue's got the benefit of being Sue's the benefit of being 3 hours behind all of us, so she could watch everything.
Yeah, we're all ready for bed. Sue's got.
All right, this is what
Oh,
Sue,
dear
you're in for a
Lord.
treat.
Oh my
You're in for a
gosh.
treat.
you missed last one. Hey, real quick, I just want to say, if you want to buy any of these long term, I was just looking through iTunes bundles that they have that are every once in a while a great value. Like buy all the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies for one special price on iTunes. They had a Hallmark Christmas 8-movie bundle, Sal. You should check that out.
Oh, nice.
You could have them permanently.
I
so-
might have to do that.
So, Falling for Christmas, the Lindsay Lohan return classic. So, Sue, you're in for a treat. Sal, I don't know why, I don't know how, but this guy is into rom-coms. If you looked at him, I'm guessing you would have lost the bet. But but he digs them, and so we're doing it. Sal, take us away.
Do it, Sally.
They're fun to watch. It's tough to review these movies because the plots are so similar in all of them. So it's tough to. But you know what? I'm going to say something about this one. This one
Oh boy.
is not bad. Lindsay Lohan actually does a really good job. I don't even know. I think it might even be her first movie back from her hiatus or whatever. Little tidbit on this: she was proposed to by her new husband on the set during filming. So luckily she said yes, or that movie might have been a disaster. But so that's a little backstory on that. Basically, it's a Netflix Christmas rom-com movie. One of my favorite people is in this movie, Jack Wagner, because he's a hell of a golfer, and he plays Lindsay Lohan's father. She is a heiress to him. He's a millionaire hotel guy, and he owns a ski resort outside of Utah called the Belmont. And there's another kind of lower class resort down the street that another gentleman runs. And in one of the opening scenes, Lindsay Lohan is just getting pampered and she's eating caviar, and they're just, she's just an uppity kind of girl. And this guy comes over to pitch his idea of Jack Wagner's character investing in his resort. He kind of blows him off, and that's kind of the opening scene. The Lindsay Lohan's love interest in this movie is played by George Young. His name is Tad, and he's kind of like the goofy boyfriend that they're not going to end up together at the end of the movie. You kind of see it coming, right? They're just not compatible with each other, but he's rich, she's rich, and that's how it goes. So one day they go to the ski resort, Lindsay Lohan and her boyfriend. They go skiing, and she hits like a tree while they're skiing, and she just has amnesia. She has no idea who she is. And there's
Sonny
like
Bono's it.
Yeah,
There's
Sonny
20
Bono,
minutes where
exactly.
they try to remind her she was in Love Bug. Go ahead.
Yeah. So now she has amnesia, which is funny because this is like this small Utah town where like everybody knows each other. But all of a sudden, and I saw a review of this movie, and they said the author of that review said the same thing. All of a sudden, she has amnesia, and nobody can tell her or say to her that you're Jack Wagner's daughter. You know what I mean? It's like for some reason, nobody else knows who she is now. She doesn't know who she is, but neither does nobody else, which is kind of obviously crazy. But anyway, for the movie, it was okay. Now, meanwhile, they're in the mountains skiing, and her boyfriend gets kind of, it's like a side, almost like a side movie to the movie. He gets he's lost in the woods, so that's why he's not there to help figure out what happened to her. But he's like in the woods with this guy. He meets up with this guy that's fishing, and they're trying to get out of there. And it reminded me of I don't know if you guys watch The Sopranos, but it almost reminded me of Michael Imperioli and Walnuts guy over there.
Paulie Walnuts.
Paulie Walnuts.
When they're in the woods and they had to get
Twin
out of there.
Pines,
Remember
is that the
scene?
name of the episode? Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. That's like one of the best scenes.
Yes, it kind of reminded me of that. They had their little movie outside of the movie, and that was very funny. This George Young did a good job, and the other actor, I forgot his name, but he did a good job. And so that part when they went to those two guys was very good. That's why I'm trying to say it was a very good movie. Back to Lindsay Lohan. Now she gets found in the woods by that guy that I told you about earlier. He was in Glee, by the way. Cord Overstreet. It's got a kind of a weird name, but his name was Jake, and he was in Glee. That's his fame. But anyway, this was his first rom-com movie as well, by the way. Anyway, he finds her in the woods. Now he's the owner of this kind of lower end resort. He takes her back to the resort. Again, everybody in that resort knows who she is, but for some reason they don't know who she is, which is crazy. But she stays there, helps him run his resort while she's trying to figure out who she is. And obviously love ensues. She falls in love with this guy, obviously. And there's some really good skiing scenes in it and stuff like that. The production on this thing is amazing. I mean, it was a lot of money. It's a very well put together, produced film. Sue probably knows all about that. Oh, and by the way, I got a question for Sue. There's a scene in the car where Lindsay Lohan and this Jake guy, they're screwing around with the radio, and All Out of Love comes on by the Air Supply.
Air Supply.
Yeah, for about 12 seconds, maybe 10 seconds, if that. Did they pay big money for that, Sue? Or
They would have to have.
Okay. Even 10 seconds like that?
I mean,
Okay.
it's more money the more that it's on in the show or in the movie. But even for 10 seconds, you have to pay.
Sure. Okay. Well, maybe that's why they didn't have the budget to play it more than. Well, they did have the budget, but obviously
You got 10 seconds. Go.
So anyway, as you know, the ending, it's they have a big Christmas fundraiser for this resort, and Jack Wagner's comes to this party. Obviously, sees his daughter. They've been looking at her for 4 days. This whole movie happens in about 5 days, and they everybody. It's like one of those scenes where everybody, almost like Christmas Story or Christmas Vacation, where everybody's in the scene at the end. There's this big party. They're doing a big fundraiser. Jack Wagner's there. Everybody's there. Notices Lindsay Lohan. And it's just one of those feel-good movies. I don't want to say the whole thing. I feel like I'm telling the whole movie. But it was,
and it's only been 3 minutes.
I know. For these rom-com movies, it was very good. I swear to God. I will. It's number 2 on Netflix right now on the top 10. It's getting a lot of views. It's getting a lot of plays. Lindsay Lohan might have had a little comeback here. I mean, she's very, very good in it. I thought her acting was good. I thought her self-deprecating scenes were good. Obviously, she had some great crying scenes where she was good. She was romantic in it. She was funny in it. So anyway, I liked it. I mean, as far as these Christmas movies goes, I know they can get really, really bland. They had some good characters in it. And the ending was good. It had good music in it. I give it a thumbs up, man. I give it 4 tomato sauce jars, man.
Four tomatoes?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, so Sally, I have a question for you that I actually had.
I know I ran through it so quickly, but anyway.
Here's my question.
Didn't feel quick, Sal.
So we're not at Thanksgiving yet, right?
Okay.
So how does this impact your appetite for Christmas movies? Are you actively looking? Are you already in the holiday season at this point? You're looking for the Christmas movies?
Yeah. Well, I'll do the mainstays. I'll watch Christmas Story. I'll watch Goodfellas. On Christmas and all that. I do my.
And that happens, like, say, after Halloween. Is that like? I'm asking, like, do you have a date when this is?
Usually after Thanksgiving, but since we're not going to be on next week, I thought I'd start my Christmas movies this week. But I'll start after Thanksgiving.
Do you decorate early too? Like my neighbor has Christmas, those arches.
Oh, no,
that
no,
new
I
thing.
don't do
Now, is that everywhere? Do you know what I'm talking about? These arches that people are putting in the front of their houses on the walkway.
Oh no!
Is that everywhere now? Because I've only seen it the last couple of years, and now everyone in my neighborhood is doing it. But my neighbor across the street,
Home Depot,
2 weeks ago, he's got
in
Christmas lights
California,
up.
they're doing that.
Like the big skeletons.
Yeah, the big skeletons
Home
or something.
Depot.
But the one that I can't get, I don't like the digital displays, the ones that project back onto your house.
Oh, yeah,
like the green stupid
Yeah, I don't
lights.
like those either.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
There's one.
Hey,
there's,
No. That's
there's
cheating.
One house,
It's cheating.
That is cheating. There's one house. It's I don't know. It's a few miles from our house, where the guy went to the store and then he said, "Well, what do you want for your lawn?" And he said, "Everything you got." And this yard
She's a
literally
beaut, Clark.
has 5,000 things in it. I gotta take a picture of it and send it to you. Okay, so
Hey,
for
real
Christmas.
quick.
Yes.
I don't know why I know this, but a little bit of trivia about All Out of Love by Air Supply. When that song came out, the final note of the song by Russell Hitchcock, is that the lead singer of Air Supply? That final note was like 15 seconds, which at the time was the longest held note in a recorded song.
Yeah, that's a great ending.
Ever, which was, I can't remember. It was a couple years later that somebody broke that.
The real question is, why would you use All Out of Love when you have Jack Wagner, who could literally just sing All I Need?
Yeah.
Which is just as good, pound for pound.
Again.
He was great. He looks great. I don't know how old that guy is, but he looks phenomenal.
He's probably 60, I bet. I have a feeling.
Gotta be close, yeah.
He's got to be close. I have a little 6 degrees of separation with the Lohan family because Lindsay Lohan's mother went to my high school.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
Younger, but.
Yeah, I mean, she looks great. I mean, I know she probably had work done, but she looks great, for being a star in the 90s.
All right. Let's do, wait, what did I want? Oh, let's go back to Sue. Let's talk about My Old School
Okay.
with Alan Cumming.
Okay, so basically the story is that a guy in Scotland duped this academy where he went to school into believing that he was 16 years old and he was really 32. And
That's
it's
funny already.
unbelievable. They have a little bit of footage of him back then, and it is so obvious that he was so much older. The coolest thing about the film is that they interview students who went to school with him now. So they basically are narrating it along with Alan Cumming because the guy didn't want to be on camera. So they use his narration, his voice, and Alan Cumming it's coming out of Alan Cumming's mouth.
Wow.
So he's playing the guy, but it's the guy's real words. And it is the most fascinating story. And just the way they did it, because, so many times you have to be so creative if you don't have archival footage. It's like, how do you tell this story? And so much of it took place when he was in school. So they animated his school life with all these students, which was very, very effective. And because the animation was good, it was like Dora the Explorer kind of animation. And it really, really worked. So I don't want to talk, too much about it because I don't want to give anything away, but it's probably one of the deception was brilliant. I mean, the fact that he pulled it off, and then the layers of the deception because his mother was involved, and it is just a crazy, crazy story that you gotta watch it. It's really, really great.
What was his goal?
The idea was, the reason why he went back to school was because when he actually was in school, he went back to the same school that he actually went to when he was 16 years old. And he was not a popular kid. He was kind of, he was the kid that wasn't a part of anything, like if they were doing a play, he just like was somebody that would never go out for the play because he probably figured they would never choose him. So he had this lifelong dream to be a doctor, and he missed the boat, and then he wanted to go back to school as a 16-year-old and then try to get into medical school. It was kind of like his parents' dream for him as well. They wanted him to be able to achieve this. So he went back, and when he went back to medical school, all his classmates, were like, "What are you doing? You're too young. Why don't you just wait?" And he said, "No, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna try to do it." So he had this it was his desperate effort to be a doctor. So he figured, let me go back to school because
like a do-over.
Because the idea was that at 30, there's no way in the world, in his mind, that he would have been able to go to medical school at that age. Like he felt like he missed the boat. So he went back to school under the guise that he was much younger. Crazy. And it's just this incredible, incredible story. And there is some footage of him. I thought that you were never going to see him. There is footage of him, and it's a really, really unique. It's a unique way of filmmaking, and the story is really, really compelling.
Cool.
When they interviewed the other classmates, what were their reflection of? They just accepted it for him being 16, even though he was older, or they go, "Yeah, we thought something was crazy."
Well, when he first walked into the class, some of them said they thought he was like a teacher's assistant because he didn't have a backpack Like he had a little briefcase, and the way he was dressed and the glasses that he wore, they were joking that he looked like he was 40 years old. But he was one of those guys that didn't have like, he didn't have a lot of, facial hair. So it's not like, he had a 5 o'clock shadow and he was showing up to high school. So and then they just accepted it. They befriended him, and they were what was strange is that whenever the teachers would ask certain questions, whether it was biology or math or history, he had so much knowledge because he was 32 years old. So his answers were so intelligent and adult that some of the students, and even one of the teachers actually said, I'm learning from you, which was like bizarre, but they just went along with it. And they went to parties at his house, and he had a car, which none of them drove, but they, and basically he said that he lived in Canada and then moved to Scotland. So they just figured, oh, you get your license earlier in Canada,
Well,
and
with the exchange rate.
exactly. Yeah, right. The driver's ed rate. So he basically he fooled everybody. He fooled all the teachers, the headmaster. It's pretty crazy. So
Wow.
Very cool.
I looked it up on Rotten Tomatoes real quick. 92%
Wow.
tomato meter, and then 89% audience score. So
That's
people are
pretty
digging it on both
wide.
sides of the aisle.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. Very cool.
cool.
Well, thank you. All right, let's finish it up with, I'm excited to hear about this one. This one, Barry Bremen, The Great Imposter.
Yeah. So this is an ESPN 30 for 30. It's available streaming on ESPN, but probably ESPN on demand as well. So Barry Bremen, The Great Imposter. So Barry is, for those of us here in the northern suburbs of Detroit, he's really relevant to us because Barry was from a city called West Bloomfield, which is right around all of us. I knew Barry a little bit. His oldest son, who is part of the documentary, played baseball with my brother. So I knew Barry a little bit, and everybody knew about Barry. So it's really a documentary set in kind of, there's kind of three, I don't want to say parts, but three kind of themes to it, in two major parts of the story. So the first is the Barry Bremen story, which if you don't know, if I mention it, you may know, that kind of thing. Barry, in 1979, was with his buddies. That year at the Pontiac Silverdome, the NBA All-Star Game was going to be played, and his two buddies bet him that he couldn't get on the floor in the All-Star Game as a player. So working with his wife, he managed to get a Sacramento Kings Otis Birdsong, just a Sacramento Kings uniform. And he hid in a bathroom during halftime. And after halftime, his wife knocked on the door to let him know the players were coming out. And in this real Sacramento Kings uniform, he walked out onto the court into the warm-up layup lines at halftime with the NBA players until he was eventually caught afterwards. I mean, it's hysterical. They have footage of the broadcast of Brent Musburger coming back from timeout saying, "There's a guy taking warm-ups that I don't know who that is." It's great. That started a career of bigger and bigger bets and making it for him, being an imposter at events. And they had some background footage that had never been seen before from a lot of these. He went as a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader onto the sidelines of a Dallas Cowboys home game. He went into the outfield to shag flies before a Major League Baseball All-Star game. He became friends with some of the players because of it. They're like, "I don't know who you are, but whatever." They didn't care. It was an All-Star game. Football games, hockey games, all kinds of things he got involved with. The capper probably was, if you all remember this, he went up on stage to accept an Emmy for Betty Thomas from Hill Street Blues, who had won. He walked up on stage and said, "I'm so sorry Betty couldn't be here, but I accept this on her behalf," and walked off stage. And they showed Betty Thomas in the audience. And she's like, so they go to commercial, they arrest him, obviously. And later, I know in interviews, they had asked him why he stopped doing it as he was getting closer to 60 years old. And he said, well, tasers and 9/11 kind of changed the plot. They don't check or ask anymore. They tase you and then drag you off. So he said that. So that's really one part of the story that's very funny and entertaining and great. And that's the story everybody knew. They talk about his relationship with his kids and how they all accepted this and how he was as a dad. And then the other kind of funny story, the second part that I kind of mentioned is the show is narrated by Jeremy Schaap, who's one of the big ESPN journalists, and his dad, Dick Schaap, is one of the most famous sports journalists of all time, an amazing sports journalist, truly a sincere, straightforward, different kind of old school sports journalist. Well, the day after the NBA All-Star game, they got him on the Today Show, to which Dick Schaap was on doing sports stories, and he interviewed Barry. And after that, he and Barry became very close. They went on family vacations together. It's insinuated, because both of them have since passed away, it's insinuated by Jeremy in talking to Barry's wife, interviewed for the documentary, that Dick may have played a big part in helping get access to some of these sports events over the years. It was too easy for him to just find his way on the field at the MLB All-Star game. So it's definitely implicated that Dick helped. So that was the second thing. But then kind of all of a sudden in the middle of it, there's a transition of the whole storyline. And it becomes a storyline about these adult 40s, 50s who are talking about how they really just started to discover as they grew older that they didn't look like, act like, feel like, seem like a natural part of being the offspring of their parents or their other siblings potentially. And they all really thought about that some, and a couple of them decided in the advent of 23andMe to go out on their own and do their own genetic testing. And it all came back, and then some of them challenged their parents, and their parents admitted that they were insemination babies, that their parents had gone to sperm banks to get the sperm because they couldn't produce naturally. So doing a part of it, as you may or may not know, you can start to get qualifying information of where your DNA matches up with other people who have also gone on to use the service. And some of these people started connecting. One woman became sort of the leader of the pack. It started with 7 or 8. And they started talking in a private Facebook group, and they started putting information together, and they all shared a very similar story. So they started doing some research and hired a private investigator, and came to discover that the genetics and who else they connected to, that it really had to be from one area, which was the Detroit area. And they did a little bit more research, and they finally discovered, based off of some information, that it had to be from Barry Bremen. So they ended up approaching they found some of the siblings, Barry's kids, and they approached them with certified letters. And one of the certified letters, the first one, made it to his daughter and son-in-law. And at the time, his wife happened to be there as well when this letter arrived. And the daughter was like, "What's this, Mom?" And the mom was just very straightforward and said, your dad was so great. And we had struggled. They had struggled to have their middle son had cerebral palsy. They had struggled at other times with her having miscarriages, and she said, one of your dad's best friends was a doctor who said, you're a great, healthy, good looking, athletic guy, smart. What would you feel about making a little extra money? And he said, sure. And really, the mom said one of the main reasons was we had struggled so much helping, yes, we were making money, but really the main reason we did it was if we had the opportunity to help families going through the same types of struggles to create their own family that we had, we saw that as a blessing that we were able to give to somebody. So they come to discover that all these kids are related. But then the story goes further in depth that there's supposed to be a limit on the number of times that one bank can use the same sample. But what they didn't say was that bank could then sell that sample to other banks who would then be held to the same standard, but they could then sell it to another bank. It comes now to be where at this day, there are potentially between 75 and 90 kids. There's 36 at least confirmed, but they think between 75 and 90 that may have been conceived using his sperm.
Wow.
And it's
Wow,
just
that's
an
crazy.
amazing story. It's a great fun watch. Again, it starts as a fun sports story, cool thing. And then just twists an entirely different direction.
Wow.
But then they show the family kind of his actual children getting together with some of these half children that they didn't know about, and it's really good. It's kind of a weird, crazy story that becomes kind of a heartwarming story, and he was so devoted to his family and his wife and his children that it's kind of cool to see how they embrace that he was really their donor father. And it's a great fun hour and a half watch. I recommend it. Pick it up, easy to find, and it's really interesting.
So Howard, I watched this also. I think it's a great documentary. It is interesting how it makes a complete left turn in the middle of the documentary to tell the second half of the story. But yeah. I did find it interesting because the guy's crazy, and people that knew Barry Bremen, and he is from the Detroit area. A lot of people I know knew him,
sure,
including my mother, by the way. He was well known to be just completely out of his mind. A good guy, a nice guy, great father, but he's out of his mind. But but one of the things that rang true in the documentary was that the scene that you talked about where he accepted the Emmy Award, that was the moment that his wife said, "It's enough." That's the line, and you just crossed it. And he said, "You're right." He's like, that's it for me. That was the moment that he stopped.
International television.
I feel like Barry Bremen was a local hero because I live in West Bloomfield. That's where he was from, and so I grew up in Farmington Hills, which is just one town over. So and plus Billy Barris, who's in the
he was one of the ones that made the bet. Yeah,
Billy Barris is my first cousins are Josh and Michael and Jackie Barris, and that's their uncle is Billy.
Wow.
And so, so Billy Barris is Bad Boys. When you see those Bad Boys shirts that everyone's Pistons wearing, and like Pistons Bad Boys, they're real popular with a lot of people again. And like, he created that originally, and the new version as well.
So what I want to ask is, when he did shoot arounds and he was shagging flies, did he look like he knew what he was doing?
Oh yeah, he was athletic. I mean, he wasn't NBA or MLB caliber, but he wasn't some fat pudgy guy. I mean, he was a good-looking 6'4",
he's really tall.
Guy.
He looked like an athlete.
So he looked the part. I mean, he didn't look the part of a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, but he definitely looked all the other parts, which helped him probably sneak past. Look, I worked in pro sports arenas for a major part of my adult life. And there's two types of people. There's, permanent security staff, but then you get a lot of part-time game day employees. So if you get a part-time game day employee doing the All-Star game, they have no idea who's on other teams coming in.
Sure.
Whereas the MLB security people were the ones that eventually, I can't remember who the I don't know if you remember, Ron, who the MLB manager was. It was like Earl Weaver, I think, or somebody like that, or Whitey Herzog, or somebody
who
who
discovered
at the
him?
MLB All-Star
Who flagged
started
it?
yelling at him.
Oh,
Yeah,
it was,
he's like,
it was Tommy Lasorda.
it was Tommy Lasorda. You're right. He's
Oh,
like,
okay.
He's like, get that asshole off
Yeah,
the
Tommy
field.
Lasorda went freaking crazy. He
Yes.
lost his mind.
They have that footage of him doing it too.
Oh,
yeah.
Barry Bremen in that game during the All-Star game actually got into the All-Star game photograph with all the players where they all stand they're all together for the team photograph with all the All-Star game and the I forget who it was that said it to me. If he hadn't been an imposter in a Yankees uniform, if he had chosen basically any other team but the Yankees, he would have gotten away with it. He would have been permanently in that photograph.
I think it was George Brett because he became friends with George Brett in life as well. Yeah.
Like if he had just picked if you picked like the Detroit Tigers or something, like no one probably would have even caught him, but because he was a Yankee, everyone knows all the Yankees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a guy that I grew up with. He was maybe 3 or 4 years older than me, but I was friends with him. And so in his high school yearbook, his name was Gary Balaban, and he went into every class picture and just changed his first initial. So he's in everybody's picture. And he changed his name to Dalaban, Falaban, Galaban, Halaban, up until Zalaban. And you just look and you just see his little head peeking up in the back row. He's almost in like every spot that he was in every picture.
Wow.
The craziest thing about Barry Bremen is, could you imagine him doing those things now with social media? Like how immediately they would go viral. It's insane.
That's
and
true.
nothing, and there were no repercussions though. Really, I mean, he didn't get arrested.
Really.
Or
No, he did get arrested.
Trespass.
He did?
He would get arrested. But
well, for the
nothing
Emmys, he
major.
was fined $175.
Yeah,
Wow.
just trespassing. That's pretty much it.
Jeez.
But he wasn't
That's totally worth
doing.
it.
He wasn't hurting it. He
Yeah.
wasn't hurting anybody. It was just showing up where he wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah,
So,
that's great. I'm gonna check that out.
it's a really good, fun and then interesting documentary all in one.
Yep.
Amazing. Well, you know what else is amazing is that we've come to the end of another show.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
96.
Episode
Went by fast.
96.
And nobody thought we'd make it to 95.
No one thought. We, again, we're not going to be on next week, and we'll pick up the week after. Sue, thank you so much.
Thanks, Sue. Thanks for
Oh,
being here.
thanks for having me.
So thank you.
Yeah, this was fun.
So awesome. And then we'll have you back, and you can talk about all other stuff.
Sue, what are you working on right now?
I'm actually working on stuff that no one's paying me to do, but I'm working on a couple of documentaries, and I have a podcast too, which I do with a guy named Steve Mason, who's a big sports guy here in LA, called Culture Pop, and I'm working. I actually have a couple of shows that are in development at a couple of production companies. So fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I'm ready to join you. So, Sal, say goodnight.
Good night, everybody. SalDeMillia.com, Sal and Bob Show, Traverse City Comedy Club this weekend. Good night, everybody.
Nice, huh?
Nice.
It is nice.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Ron, say goodnight.
Yeah, Ron Lippett. I am home for another week past Thanksgiving, then back in the air for 2 straight weeks in a row. So look for some new shows from Delta.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Howard, say goodnight.
I'll be on my couch. The next, through the rest of the winter.
Awesome. And then you can check me out on Classic Conversations. I got Timmy from Lassie on
Nice.
this week. That was fun. John Provost. And of course, episode 136, tattooed
Nice.
on my shoulder. That's the episode where you can listen to myself and Sue Kolinski.
Yeah.
Great interview. So, all right, everybody, thank you very much.
Peace.
And we will
Nice
see
job,
you
guys.
next
Take care, you guys.
And
See
that
you
has
guys.
been another
It's fun.
episode of Crossing the Streams. Join us every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, live on Facebook and YouTube. Follow The Jeff DeWaskin Show on YouTube to be alerted every time we go live with your hosts, Jeff DeWaskin, Ron Lippett, Howard Rosner, Bob Phillips, Sal D'Amelio. We're all in the socials. Follow us, listen to our podcasts, Classic Conversations, and The Sal and Bob Show. Check them all out, and we'll see you next week and every week when we cross more streams right here. See you then.